Day one, I will seal the border, stop the invasion, and
we will begin the largest deportation operation
in American history.
Welcome back to the Global Insight, Global Citizens. As Donald Trump's second term unfolds, his hardline immigration policies are sending ripples of uncertainty through communities across the United States. While his first administration was marked by strict border control measures, his second term has intensified enforcement, casting a long shadow over immigrant communities. Among those feeling the brunt of those policies are Indian immigrants, one of the fastest growing groups in the US, many of whom now find themselves caught in an expanding web of deportations, visa crackdowns, and heightened scrutiny. The Indian American community, known for its contributions to technology, healthcare and entrepreneurship, now faces an era of unprecedented fear and instability. Families who once believed that they had secured their place in the American dream are discovering that their future in the country is far from certain.
In the United States, Donald Trump's deportation drive is in full swing. India received one of these military jets this week, carrying 104 Indian citizens. Their condition has become a political flashpoint because the Indians were returned in chains.
Today, we delve into the specific ways that Trump's policies are affecting this vibrant community. From increased deportations to anxieties over visa restrictions and even the haunting spectre of deportation flights back to India. Welcome to the Global Insight.
I will declare a national emergency at our southern border. All illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
The United States is home to approximately 725,000 undocumented Indian immigrants, making them the second largest group of unauthorized residents. This significant population now finds itself at the center of an intensified immigration crackdown under President Trump's second term. As federal agencies ramp up enforcement, Indian nationals, many of whom have lived in the US for years, are facing an uncertain future, with the threat of deportation looming larger than ever. According to a recent report by the Financial Express, US authorities have already identified around 18,000 Indian nationals for removal, with logistical plans for their repatriation well underway. The Indian government has expressed its willingness to cooperate in facilitating these deportations, underscoring the growing diplomatic and humanitarian complexities surrounding the issue.
We have always taken the view that if there are any of our citizens who are not here legally, if we are sure that they are our citizens, we've always been open to their legitimate return.
For many undocumented Indians in the US, this marks a moment of crisis as they struggle to navigate an increasingly hostile immigration environment while fearing separation from their families, jobs, and communities. Behind these numbers are real human lives, people who've built their futures in the US only now to face the possibility of being uprooted overnight. With uncertainty deepening across Indian American communities, the fear of deportation is no longer a distant worry, but an immediate and pressing reality.
If you're illegally in the US has a right to deport you, and if your identity as an Indian is confirmed, then India has an obligation to accept you. So in both cases, there really isn't very much debate. However, it wasn't good to hear that they were brought back forcibly in a military plane and handcuffed and so on. That was quite unnecessary.
As enforcement efforts escalate, thousands of Indian immigrants brace themselves for what may be one of the most aggressive immigration crackdowns in recent history. As President Trump's second term unfolds, the crackdown on undocumented immigrants has intensified, with Indian nationals among those most affected. Reports of large-scale deportations are becoming increasingly common, leaving families devastated and communities in turmoil. One particularly striking example was recently highlighted by the Times of India, which reported that a US military C-17 aircraft landed in Amritsar, repatriating 104 Indian nationals who had entered the United States illegally. Among them were 25 women and 12 children, some as young as 4 years old, with many hailing from states such as Punjab, Haryana and Gujarat. For these deportees, the journey to the US had been arduous and expensive, often involving significant financial investments through questionable immigration channels. Their abrupt return to India has left them not only grappling with emotional distress, but also facing severe financial and social consequences. According to the Times of India, many of these individuals had risked everything to build a new life in the US, only to be forcibly returned under the administration's tightened immigration policies. The pain of separation from loved ones, the uncertainty of the future, and the stigma of deportation now weigh heavily on them. These mass deportations are not isolated incidents, but part of a broader effort to enforce stricter immigration laws, signaling an increasingly hostile environment for undocumented individuals in the USA. As families are torn apart, the psychological and economic toll continues to mount, leaving thousands of Indian immigrants fearful of what comes next.
We don't allow people to enter our country and to dump their prisons into the United States of America anymore.
President Trump's recent executive orders have intensified the scrutiny of visa applications, particularly affecting Indian nationals. According to a recent article in the Hindustan Times, Indian Americans have expressed concerns about extreme vetting procedures and potential disruptions to the H-1B visa program. This heightened scrutiny has led to a pervasive sense of uncertainty within the community. Even legal immigrants now fear that minor paperwork issues could result in deportation. The Hindustan Times article highlights that the administration's stringent policies have created an atmosphere where individuals are anxious about their future in the United States. The fear of unintentional non-compliance with complex immigration regulations has left many feeling vulnerable, unsure of their status, and concerned about their ability to continue contributing to American society.
The American Hindu community, which is mostly the Indian American community, pays about 6% of the taxes despite being only 1.5% of the population. And they feel that their tax dollars are going towards something that doesn't benefit America.
The potential deportation of thousands of undocumented Indian immigrants carries significant socio-economic implications for both the United States and India. In the US, industries such as construction, hospitality and retail, which often rely on immigrant labour, could face substantial workforce shortages. This disruption may lead to increased operational costs and service delays affecting the broader economy. The absence of these workers could also strain small businesses and local economies that depend on their contributions.
There are certain industries that concentrate undocumented immigrants. In those industries, undocumented immigrants are a major part of the labor force. Not only that, they are a more important cause of the profitability in those industries than their mere numbers would tell you. Okay, now let's imagine you deport them. First of all, that costs billions, but that's the least of it. Here comes the big one. Every one of those industries is a crucial player in the inflation level of the United States. Who's going to pick the lettuce? Who's going to pick the fruit? Who's going to do all that work? Who's going to clean the dishes in the back of the restaurant? Who's going to clean up at the end, the evening when the patrons of the restaurant go home? Well, the answer is you either close the restaurant, and that has economic consequences, or you close the farms, and that's really not an option, or you're going to have to hire Americans. And Americans won't be afraid to go to the labor office if you don't pay them. So you're going to actually have to pay them. And you're probably going to have to pay them a good bit more than the immigrant for all the reasons you normally pay immigrants less than native workers, which means the cost structure of these industries is going to take off. And you know what they're all going to do, those employers? They're going to raise their prices. They're going to want to do that to recapture the extra costs that will come. But are we ready to go and wash dishes at the back of the restaurant? Are we ready to pick apples? Really? You're gonna cause social upheaval. You're gonna cause inflation. Mr. Trump can't do that. Inflation is half of why he got elected.
For India, the sudden influx of deported citizens presents its own set of challenges. Reintegrating these individuals into the domestic job market may prove difficult, especially if they lack the skills in demand with the current economy. Additionally, families that previously relied on remittances from relatives in the US might experience financial hardship due to the loss of this income. Socially, the returnees could face stigmatization, and the government may need to implement support programs to facilitate their adjustment. According to a recent analysis by ETV Bharat, these developments underscore the complex interplay between immigration policies and their far-reaching effects on both nations. The US military aircraft that transported 104 Indian nationals back to Amritsar marked a significant event in the ongoing immigration enforcement efforts. This operation underscored the intensified measures being implemented to address illegal immigration. In response to these deportations, the Indian government is facing increasing pressure to address the root causes of illegal migration and ensure the dignified treatment of its citizens abroad. Congress MPs have moved adjournment motions to the Lok Sabha, urging the government to clarify its stance and outline diplomatic efforts with the US. These policies also emphasize the need for policies to prevent illegal migration and combat human trafficking. Trump's immigration policies are casting a long shadow over the Indian immigrant community in the United States. With deportations rising, visa scrutiny intensifying, and families being torn apart, the fear within these communities is palpable. The consequences of these policies extend far beyond individual cases. They are reshaping the landscape of immigration in America and straining diplomatic ties between the US and India. As thousands face an uncertain future, the broader social and economic impact of these measures is only beginning to unfold. The situation remains fluid, and the long-term consequences are still unknown. But one thing is certain: this is a story that will continue to evolve in the months and years to come. How will this crackdown impact the Indian American community in the long run? What role do you think that the Indian government should play in supporting its returning citizens? And how do these policies align with America's long-standing identity as a nation of immigrants? We want to hear your thoughts, so please share in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel here at The Global Insight for more in-depth analysis of global issues. And until next time, stay tuned.